so we're all here. So I just brought some props. Yeah.
Just to point out to all of you, these are the mics from the various media right here, so as you're talking, leaning in a little bit will probably help them pick up the sound. We've got all the mics going.
Okay, you're cool.
Do you want some water?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, should we get some water? Yeah.
Yeah, that will be nice. We can get some water.
Get some water. Yeah.
She's getting it, they're getting it.
Okay, so should we get started? Okay, well, welcome, thank you for coming. We are going to talk about the release on May 6th of Shawn Massey from prison after serving 12 years for a crime that he did not commit. What I'd like to do is to introduce some of the people here, make a brief statement, sort of an overview of our case, and then we'll open it for questions. To my right is Shawn Massey from Charlotte, North Carolina. Let me also introduce his grandmother, Reverend Annie Massie, who is sitting here, his aunt Sylvia Sua, and his son Dantrez sitting out here. Here at the table with me is Theresa Newman here, who is co-director of the Duke Wrongful Convictions Clinic. That also, by the way, is I am a co-director of the Duke Wrongful Convictions Clinic. My name is Jim Coleman. To my left is Kim Kisabeth, who was one of the first students to work on Shawn's case. When she was here at the law school, she graduated and then came back to work with us as a criminal justice fellow and worked on the case through Shawn's release. To Kim's left is Emily Sauter, who is a student, she was a student. She graduated in 2009 and came back for this. She was on the second team to work on the case, and that was the team that discovered some of the important evidence in the case. First, let me say that Shawn's release, at least the timing of the release, was due in large part to the cooperation of the district attorney in Charlotte, Peter Gilchrist. We worked closely with him throughout this process. Without his cooperation, I don't think it would have been possible to obtain Shawn's release and his exoneration, certainly not within the time that it occurred. The assistant or former assistant district attorney who worked on the case, Eric Cottrell, who is a Charlotte lawyer, also worked with us during our investigation, and his cooperation also was important. And then finally, the victim in the case, Samantha Wood, I submitted to an interview with us, and she was able to confirm evidence that became very important to Shawn's exoneration. So we want to say that to acknowledge the role that all of them played. One of the things that we try to do here at the Wrongful Convictions Clinic, because most of our cases do not involve DNA evidence, there's a lot written about exonerations based on DNA, but that requires biological evidence. There was no biological evidence in this case, and there often is not biological evidence in the cases that we investigate. And you know, our guess is that most of the people who are innocent and in prison have been convicted in cases where there is not biological evidence that might eventually free them. So in cases like that, it becomes very important to be able to work with the district attorneys and with the police departments that conduct the investigations in the first place. And that's what we were able to do in this case. It doesn't happen in all of our cases, but when it does happen, we think that there is a very good chance that if the person is innocent, that we may be able to prove that. Let me just say that having access to the district attorney's files, as we did in this case, was a very important development because it gave us an insight into what the prosecutors were thinking about the evidence and about the case. It gave us an insight into what the police were thinking about the case and about the evidence and about various witnesses. And knowing that permitted us to evaluate the case that they had presented against Shawn. We tell our students that in these cases, we're looking for loose threads, not smoking guns. The cases have been investigated by the police departments, but what we're looking for are those details that they missed or that were not available at the time, details that then permit us to sort of unravel the case against an innocent person. That requires a lot of attention. It requires a lot of close examination of both the files in the case, the evidence in the case, and then trying to identify witnesses who may not have been interviewed in the initial investigation by the police. And that's the work that the students, Emily and Kim, did when they were students, and the students who worked with them on their teams, and they were the ones who uncovered the evidence, the threads that we were able to pull on and demonstrate that Shawn was innocent. About the only evidence in this case against Shawn was the identification of him by the victim. This was a case involving robbery, kidnapping, use of a gun, and the victim eventually at trial identified Shawn as the person who had committed the crime. But from the very beginning, there was doubt about whether he was the person. When she identified him in a photo lineup, she said, "This looks most like the person, except that Shawn, did not have braids." She had consistently described the person who committed the crime as a black male who had braids in his hair. It turns out that that was very significant because he didn't just have braids, he had cornrows. And I don't know if most of you understand the significance of that. We learned in the course of our investigation that some of the key players did not appreciate the significance of that, and I think that that's one of the reasons the case sort of went off the cliff. But the victim in the case had consistently said that the person had braids. It was her identification and then the testimony of a police officer who said that one of Shawn's friends had told him that Shawn wore his hair in braids. It turns out that was wrong. That didn't happen. And the police officer mischaracterized the circumstances under which he had interviewed the witness, and what he had done was to use the exact same identification or description of the perpetrator that the victim had used, and he attributed that description of Shawn to this witness. It turned out that she had not said that, and at trial she denied saying that. But the power of eyewitness identification is that Shawn was convicted anyway. Anything else that before we throw it open? You guys, would you like to say anything? Or you just want to wait for questions? It's up to you.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, so, so why don't we throw it open for questions, and, you know, we'll address whatever questions you have.
Before we do that, this is how we co-teach too, actually. He says something, we throw it open to questions, and I jump in. I want to emphasize the extent to which the students just were captured by this case from the outset. Kim Kisabeth and her teammate Alexandra Kopek were captured by it, met Shawn, just started putting their heads down and moving forward, and it was fascinating from a purely from a pedagogical teaching perspective to watch them both unravel the conviction and put together the exoneration. I mean, it was bit by bit, and these always take a little longer than you would hope, but they were just absolutely key to the work that was done on this case. The tremendous cooperation that District Attorney Gilchrist gave and his staff gave to the students is in large part because of certainly the character of those people, but also the persistence of our students. So I just wanted to restate that.
Yeah, and then that gave me an idea to also mention that Emily and her partner on the case were the two students who discovered photographs in the district attorney's files, which indicated that over a course of many years, Shawn had always worn his hair at basically exactly the same length that it is today. That there was a photograph that had been taken in on March 9th, 1998, showing that his hair was exactly that length. There was one on May 29th, which was a week after the crimes in this case. His hair was this length. And it was the discovery of those photographs that had not been given to the defendant that helped us to unravel the case. Emily and Susan also interviewed the former assistant district attorney in the case and got an admission from him that on the first day of the trial, the victim had come up to the assistant DA and indicated that when she saw Shawn for the very first time in person, she wasn't sure that that was the person who had robbed her. He did not disclose that to the defense, and the case was tried without the jury knowing that she had expressed any doubt about that. But that was also part of the evidence that I believe convinced the district attorney that a miscarriage of justice had occurred in this case and that the conviction should be overturned. Yes?
How did the case come before you guys, the Duke Innocence Center?
As you probably already know, this is a confusing state to keep the different organizations straight. And it's a wonderful confusion because what it means is that there are a lot of people doing this kind of work. We have, in the state, we have a nonprofit organization called the North Carolina Center on Actual Innocence, which is separate from the law schools, the executive director of which is a woman named Christine Muma. And for years, that organization has served as the very effective clearinghouse of innocence claims. So a letter came from Shawn, and also, well, from Shawn. A letter came from Shawn to the North Carolina Center on Actual Innocence, made its way to the center, because we all send our letters. The very efficient Dee Dee Manty is at the back of the room, and she works at the center, and I send her all of my letters, and she works justice. So what happens is the letters get reviewed there, and then the cases are disseminated across the various law schools that are doing innocence work. So we were privileged to get Shawn's case and to work on it for the past 3 years.
Yes.
Shawn's release has come about a little bit differently than some of the other
Right.
cases we've seen recently. So can you speak to what impact that may have on his ability to receive a pardon and compensation that we've seen some of the other exonerated men receive?
Well, we really don't want to discuss that, except to say that he's innocent, and that is the basis for relief under at least North Carolina law if the governor pardons him. And I'm sure soon he will file a pardon application.
So he will proceed in.
Sure.
Shawn, it says here in the facts of the case that you never got to testify in your original trial. What was going through your head during the trial and then also at the conviction?
It was kind of crazy because I had never been in trouble on this stage before, and my grandpops used to. Well, first of all, let me thank God. Let me give, because that's my personal savior. But my grandpops always used to tell me, if you didn't do something, don't ever plead guilty to it. And me and my grandpops was real tight. He was my dad, so we had a good rapport. So if I did something, I would tell him. If he didn't, so anyway, I got in trial. I went to trial, and of course, North Carolina don't like when you go to trial, especially in a big city, because so many people are used to taking plea bargains. And me personally, I'm a fighter and I'm a warrior, so I'm like, I'm gonna go to trial because I didn't do nothing. And from that point on, it got kind of, it started shifting and it moved so fast to where I actually, Cantrell had me second guess my mind, and my heart wasn't in sync, so I kind of went against my inner self, but my heart let me know that, it was like, Shawn, you didn't take nothing from nobody, because that never was my MO or what I was into. So after that, I felt that far as my attorney told me, I wanted to take the stand, but my attorney advised me wrong as counsel, saying that that we had the jurors persuaded and I didn't need to take the stand. So I didn't, but I wanted to. And then after that, they put the time on me that I did. And now it's where we at now. So.
What other steps did you take? When did you start writing letters? Was it from the first day that you were in prison, or?
I think it might have been like 2 days later. Because of the initial shock. But how I got the address and stuff, I seen I was at Johnson County in a class, and a man by the name of Mike Weiner. I seen the commercial, and I was like, look, man, I need to write them because I'm innocent in prison. And he took a special interest in me as a person, and we kind of meshed together, and from there it was, he even helped me go through my transcripts and stuff to find little points and stuff. And from there, man, I wrote every day, not just to the innocent inquiries here. I wrote all over the United States, even to one in Hawaii too. So, so I did a lot of writing and a lot of praying. I did a lot of praying and a lot of writing. So, and I believe that a lot don't tarry forever, but this seemed like forever to me, because when they snatched me out of my life, it was something real. It was really crazy. So.
I guess the question I have for you is going through this and kind of having a chance to decompose. Do you have any animosity, or are you fighting that right now towards what happened to you?
Yes. Yes. I struggle with that daily, and I will continue to struggle with that through the rest of my life. But yeah, I feel like I was wronged by the justice system in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I don't trust cops. I don't trust but like one lawyer. Well, not even a lawyer yet, but
There are a few you can.
yeah, it's very few. But and
I guess my other question too is, as you mentioned that you got a son, how are you kind of conveying that to him and talking to him on who to trust and who not to trust, because your dad.
well, yeah, that's true. But right now, we on a level to where we just rekindling in our relationship. So it's kind of, I can't really answer that question because we going through that now. So trial and error. But I don't really discuss. Like I try to keep him separate. I kind of look okay. I look at being in prison as business, and he's personal to me, so I keep those separate.
I guess my question here is like, when he's a teenager, he's going to be making his own decision. I know you got to be thinking, how do I keep him in the right situation so he doesn't even have to go anywhere near what I've been through?
Dontre's got a hell of a support system, and his mom is a great person, and she's smart, and she kind, she cool. I just, but matter of fact, if you want to ask him, I just try to be, I just try to be his friend, and what else you think? Yeah, because he kind of quiet, so he real observant. But I asked him a long time ago, when he might have been about, 12, 13. He came to visit me up in Marion, him and his mom and my grandmama. Did you? Nah, in Rock. Anyway, but, and I asked him, I said, look, man, I know I missed a lot of your life, and I'm still going to miss some until they let me go. But I asked him, is there anything that he want to ask me or get off his chest or vent or whatever, he can do it. And the response he gave me kind of blew me away because I was like, yo, he think already like a grown man. And I'm going to keep that between me and him. But it shocked me to know that my son can actually think and respond to me like he did on that level. So it was real. It was all right.
How old is your son now?
I asked him, he can tell you. He 18.
18.
Matter of fact, he just turned 18 in February.
Being incarcerated for the past 12 years, how many other people have you come in contact with that you feel are in the same position that you in?
I quite a few, because like I say, to me, I feel that North Carolina, this my opinion, I feel that North Carolina get away with a lot of stuff, as far as putting crimes on people and sending them to prison because it's cheaper. I don't know the totality of it, but I feel that they get away with sending you to prison. And like Judge Baker told me at the end of my trial, he was like, yo, man, I told him when I come back, I'm coming back with more power, and God gonna bless me to give this back to you. And he looked at me like, okay, and we'll see you then. I was like, cool, I'm coming back. So that's just my opinion, though, man. It's a lot of people I know that for different types of crimes, different matters, and not just that though. Also the people that's like me, been falsely accused of a crime, but their situation is worse than mine because they did now, but they done found out that they was actually innocent of a crime. So that's what's, to me, that's the next level of it. So that's about it. But it's a lot of people in prison that's actually really innocent.
Have you heard of the recent exonerations that have happened in North Carolina? And if so, what do you think of them? Have you heard of them?
I know that they let a couple people, a person I know that
Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor. They let him go like a couple months ago. So that's actually good because I believe that now things are coming full circle, and that's a good thing, And me personally, I would like Obama to keep an eye on this state, but it's mean, man. He need to come down here. Him and Eric Holder, they need to come down here and really try to straighten this thing out because it's really madness. It's real madness, man. I'm talking about real madness.
Did that give you hope when you were in prison? You heard about that, the exoneration of Greg Taylor. Did that say, okay, yeah, I might actually get out of here?
No, I'm a very spiritual man, and I believe I'm deep in to the Bible. So No, I didn't, because I knew, because it was revealed to me before. But I felt God came, I had a premonition, and it came to me, and I felt that I was going to do 4 years. But by me being not forgiving of the victim for lying on me and the justice system doing me wrong, I ended up doing these 12 for not having a forgiving heart. So, but after I started forgiving them, my life started changing, and then that's when Kim started. She started going hard, and like I say, that's the only lawyer. I didn't say it, but that's the only lawyer I trust. Well, almost a lawyer.
Jim and I are.
Well, but don't take it personal. They professors
sitting
though,
over here.
but they professors though. So that's why I'm not saying that they professors though. You know what I mean? They teach them. So it all starts with the brain. You know what I'm saying? So
Good recovery.
Tell us a little bit about your involvement in this case and what impacted you so much to work so hard.
that's why I ain't been.
Well, as Professor Coleman said, I graduated from Duke Law School in 2007, and I was a student in the Wrongful Convictions Clinic here. And I think actually what really spurred my involvement in this area of law and in this case was working under Professors Newman and Coleman. I think looking at the level of excitement and just joy that they find in their work in this area of the law and on their cases, I think was inspiring to all of us to really get going on our cases. As clinical students, we're given a requirement of 100 hours that we need to spend on each case with which we work. And most students go far and beyond that. And I think you just jump in with both feet and try to find every detail, every fact, and every thread that can be unraveled. And I think also it's a real team effort. I think getting to work with great students, and all of the students who have worked on this case have stayed in touch and have worked on the case together at every level. And so I think that was the initial motivation. And then I think also having that lawyer-client relationship is exciting. Going to prison was the first time I'd ever been to a prison, and meeting Shawn for the first time. And I think I was startled at how normal he seemed. I didn't know. I watch Law and Order, and you see the pictures of the hands outside the bars in the prison, and I think if we weren't in a prison, it would have been just like, well, how it was an hour ago, all of us sitting in Star Commons having a conversation about the new law school and about politics and about the news, and so I think it really struck me that this is a person, and this is a person who's just like the people I sit with at lunch every day, who's potentially at that time been the victim of a miscarriage of justice. I think that the more I worked on this case and the more facts that came out, I think, I cared about Shawn as a person and also as a lawyer or budding lawyer. And so.
How do you think this case has impacted you in the future in your perception of law and hearing about the stuff that the prosecution did not tell the defense?
I think it's shown me that there's room for change and that it's important to be forward-looking, and for each person, especially myself included, to try to make a difference. I think that changes can happen, and as someone in this room pointed out, many of the exonerations that have occurred so far are DNA exonerations, but that doesn't mean that we can't change that and get some of the people who are wrongfully incarcerated and don't have physical evidence that can be tested, that their cases can be investigated at the same level.
Going back on that, what do you think needs to be done, or what do you, from a lawyer's point of view, that you change to help avoid situations like this? Because I know you watch the news more, and it seems like our state is just going back and changing and freeing a lot of people.
That's a tough question.
So can I offer one answer? Well, I think one thing that would help would be if you could convince prosecutors and police departments that they should help us to investigate these cases, to open their files so that we can determine if there's evidence in the files that might indicate that the person is innocent. Think about it. We had 3 teams of students, 6 students over a 3-year period who spent a lot of time on this case. They know this case better than anybody ever in the past knew it. And the police and the prosecutors don't have the resources to do that with every case. So when we look at these cases, we see things that they may have missed, and this is not because of misconduct, it's just that, they're overwhelmed with the number of cases. So if they view what we do as part of the justice system, then I think, I think the system would be better, and I think that we might be able to, not just this clinic, but clinics at Wake Forest and Central and Elon. I mean, there are a lot of law schools now in the state that are trying to identify people who've been wrongfully convicted, except that, we don't get a lot of cooperation from prosecutors and police departments. And if that changed, then I think we would be able to identify more people who were victims of miscarriage of justice.
Have there been reforms in the state that make it easier to pursue these kind of cases?
Yes, North Carolina actually is probably at the forefront of the kinds of reforms that are occurring as a result of wrongful convictions. Theresa and I have been involved with the Chief Justice's Innocence Commission, which proposed the Innocence Inquiry Commission, which resulted in Greg Taylor's exoneration. The way that eyewitness identifications are done has changed in this state. So there are reforms, and I think the legislature has been open to reform. I think that the law has been changed, that we might be able to go into court now to get access to the files of prosecutors and police departments. So, Theresa?
I think the other thing that's changing is that it's slow, and it's not as quick as legislation, but prosecutors are starting to say, oh, well, gosh, there are these cases. Well, maybe we have cooperation. We are working on about, here at Duke, we have about 18 cases in the process of investigation, probably 8 to 10 of which are in very serious clinic investigation. And of those 8, probably 4 have the full cooperation of the district attorney and the police departments. And in those cases, amazing things are happening, and you'll be invited back soon, we think, in a couple of other cases. Amazing things are happening. It's happening in partnership, in collaboration with with law enforcement. And there's nothing more wonderful than when that works, because then we can all stand here. Peter's not with us today, but we should pull up a chair for Peter and have an honorary chair for Peter Gilchrist, who is a graduate of the Duke Law School, I have to say. But that's not why he did it, because it wasn't that easy. I wish it were. I wish there was an alumni network. But the other cases are working just as well when we have the cooperation. I don't want a second to go by, because I am a teacher first and foremost, without hearing Emily speak to, Emily, as Jim Coleman said, was on the team that sat with and they're both quiet. Emily and Susan Porchot, her partner, are both quiet people, not like Jim Coleman and Theresa Newman. They're quiet, and I have told the story. I wasn't there when they got all this information from the assistant district attorney who prosecuted the case, but I tell a great story. And the story I tell is that Emily and Susan just stared at him, and he just kept talking. And probably, at the risk of losing my great story that I told, we might want to hear what actually happened. And it probably is a great story, Emily.
Thanks, Theresa. Well, when we went to interview Cottrell, we really, as students, had no clue what we were doing, to be honest. We had pored over the trial transcript, had pored over the excellent notes that Kim and her team had created for us. But I think really it was the DA's interest in being transparent and cooperating with us that was key. Not every prosecutor would admit that the victim doubted her identification of the perpetrator. And so that was key that he disclosed that to us. Additionally, they let us look at the entire file, and actually I brought my digital camera with me, so I took pictures of everything. And we wrote everything down. And when we were looking at these photographs, we didn't initially know for sure how important they were. We thought that they were mugshots just by looking at, they were Polaroids with numbers on the bottom, so we knew that they were probably either mugshots or from the jail. However, we had no idea what dates they were from, and so it was really afterwards when we did some of the investigation, the follow-up investigation, calling the sheriff's office, that we really figured out how important their giving us the file was to this case.
The reforms that you guys were just talking about, are all these reforms coming about because North Carolina is so bad, or is this a nationwide problem, or what?
No, it's a problem that affects the criminal justice system across the country. I mean, we're not unique. What's unique in some ways about North Carolina is that we actually are trying to do something about it. And I think that's important. I mean, you know, there are many times in this case when Peter Gilchrist could have simply walked away and said, well, you know, if you think you have a claim, go into court. And he didn't do that. He stuck with us. And in the end, you know, we convinced him that Shawn had been wrongfully convicted. You know, I think North Carolina, in some ways, you know, has been honest about the problem and has tried to address it. But you know, but as Shawn said, there are a lot of people in prison who are innocent, and you know, we're trying to find ways to identify them so they can be released.
And I think you need to, and you, the members of the media have heard this person's name many times, but two people's names. Though we were two of the first people in the state to do innocence work, and we did it only because our students here answered the call that the Innocence Project, the project up in New York, Barry Scheck, Peter Neufeld project, put out a call to the nation, to students. They know how to get to teachers, right? They put out a call to students, said, we need help. So our students came to us and said, can we help? That was 10 years ago, and we went up to New York and met the Innocence Project and got some training and came back. So we were innocence babies then, and we were trying to do what other people were just starting to do in the nation. Now that effort, there's an Innocence Network with 60+ member organizations across the nation and around the world, all from that first call for help. But back in our state, after we started doing that innocence work, two things happened. Chris Muma became the executive director of the North Carolina Center on Actual Innocence. Jim and I sit on the board, but Chris runs it, and she clerked for Justice I. Beverly Lake after she graduated from law school. And Beverly Lake, the last person, well, one of the last people you might expect to be at the forefront of consideration of the problems, formed that other commission, not the Innocence Inquiry Commission, but the Chief Justice's Commission on Actual Innocence, now the Chief Justice's Criminal Justice Study Commission, but formed that commission, and Chris was the executive director of that commission too. A lot of us were 28 people that were members. We had the Attorney General sitting on the commission. We had police chiefs, sheriffs, defense lawyers, innocence workers, victims advocate, all focused on, and that put North Carolina way at the front of the pack in sort of the recognition that there was a problem and that that changes needed to be made. So reforms issued from that. Chris Newman has continued to work on legislation to make improvements, and the rest of us have been trying to do what we can do, and that's where we are today.
Shawn, do you know what's next for you?
Yeah, to a degree. I'm just going to pray and let the Lord lead my life and direct my footsteps and work on being forgiven. And from there, I'm going to go with the flow. I'm a carefree type of person, so I'm going to go with the flow and just get in where I fit in at.
Why don't you describe a little bit what you've been doing the transition for?
Oh yeah, I'm right now. I'm trying to re-enter society because I'm like a veteran, post-traumatic stress and stuff like that. So I go through little phases, and I'm trying to get a little help. But at the same time, I'm taking this transition. and it's real interesting because I'm learning. They got new technology out, and everything is more quicker than it was when I left the street. So, you know, like I said, I'm in a reentry program, so it's pretty cool. I dig it. I'm in there with that. Matter of fact, I feel comfortable at church, at home, and at this transition place because them same people been where I've been, but they did their crime, so it's a little different. But besides that, we can talk. You know, I can go there. You know, we have things in common. Versus like my cousin Billy, he a brother to me, and he took me to a club, and we rode by the club, and I was all hyped like I'm going in. When we got there, I kind of shut down because I'm not used to being around people and stuff like that right now. You know, far as like socially interacting. So it's a little, like I said, I'm a little off balance right now, but in time it'll level out. I believe that because I'm optimistic. So in due time.
When we drove him home, we were, Jim Coleman and I were the two very fortunate people to pick Shawn up at Maury Correctional.
But Kim was on her way.
Kim was on her way, but he was not willing to wait. He said, I'm leaving, I'm walking, I'm taking a cab. I'm not waiting for Kim because she was visiting her parents in Charleston. He said, I am not. So Kim drove to his grandmother's house in Charlotte, and driving a little pokily, but I drove, because I told him I had precious cargo. I said, you put your seatbelt on. I am not delivering you damaged after all this. I was not going to hurt you on the way home. But when we rounded do you want to tell the story rounding the corner? When we rounded the corner, I asked him if he wanted to call, may I tell that story about the grandmother? Well, I asked him if he wanted to call his grandmother and say that we were on the way. And he said, no, I guess he had it all planned. He didn't want to call her until we were on the street, on her street, because he wanted to be able to say, come outside, because I'm on the street. So the first thing we did, he scared me a little bit because we rounded the corner and there were these three young men coming toward the car, not near your house, way down the street. And he rolls down the window and he says, or we had the window rolled down, and he said, hey, where are you going? I said, oh, Shawn, don't get there. We're almost there. Don't get us into trouble. But they knew him. It was great. So we get down. So he said, slow down. And I'll call her now. So he called his grandmother and said, put Grandma on the phone. And he said, come on, tell her to come on outside, Grandma. And I thought, I didn't know you then, so I didn't know you were quite so striking. So I thought, little Grandma was going to come out of the house. I don't know how many people, and 50 people, 45 people.
Not that many.
It was a tremendous number. You talk about a support group. Shawn has a tremendous network of people. Dontrez was there. Everybody was there. There were many children in his family he had never met, which was very poignant. You were meeting some family members for the first time there.
And this was at 10:45 on a
Oh, it was
Thursday
at night. It was nice.
So I mean, to have this many people congregated at a house with just hours' notice was very striking.
Shawn, being in prison for the last 12 years, you're talking about some of the technology, but what has been the hardest thing for you to miss out on?
My son's life, and I miss hearing my grandma preach on Sunday. Sunday was like the worst day ever in prison for me because I'm so used to being at church. Like if I don't get to see my people during the week, I could go to church and see them. So, and my mom preached there, so I love that. So that was, them two things are two of the hardest things that I ever, besides my mama dying, I ever had to bear. So we cool.
And you're staying in Charlotte now?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
You plan to stay here, or?
I'd rather not tell nobody.
Understood.
You all speak with a tremendous amount of graciousness toward the district attorney's office, but I cannot overlook the fact of decisions that were made at the trial by someone who's still a practicing attorney in the state. Are there any efforts to, A, review work that was in a similar time frame or perhaps conducted in a similar way, or address this further, because you know that these problems are often systemic?
Well, we aren't. We're we moved on to the next case. We do worry about these issues, and independently of the cases, Theresa and I, are trying to do what we can to bring about changes. My guess is that if there are other problems in Charlotte in Charlotte, let's say, I think Peter Gilchrist, as long as he's DA, will try to deal with them. Who knows what happens after he leaves, but I think we really do respect what he did in this case. He's a well-regarded prosecutor in North Carolina, and he stepped up on this one.
What was that question again? No, say that question. Repeat that question.
I was asking whether there was some attempt or request to review cases that were handled maybe similarly to yours, perhaps by the same assistant district attorney or conducted in the same manner, because there were obviously some poor decisions made as it related to how your case was handled at trial.
Me personally, this my opinion. I feel that they should have a watchdog group over those kind of situations, because if they'll do it to me, they'll do it to somebody else. Just like me personally, like I say, I'm kind of a little mad about the situation. So it's crazy, because I think that not just over that, I think that they should have watchdog groups over North Carolina Department of Correction, period, in different areas like grievances, the Prison Legal Service, because I wrote them at the same time. I did a direct appeal, that's what you were telling me, and they turned me down, saying that they didn't find evidence. Now, these trained attorneys, these people are already getting paid to be, they licensed and everything, and I got with the innocent inquiry at Duke, and these students found more evidence that linked me not being there to actually being innocent than a trained professional attorney. So I think that something is wrong with that situation. So I think that they should have watchdog groups over those kind of, and I'm gonna work towards that. That's one of my long-term goals, to have somebody keep an eye on NCDOC, grievance procedure, the Prison Legal Service, and some other departments of, because I seen and witnessed so much and been through so much in prison, to where I got it in my mind that they tried to kill me the whole time I was there. That's the way I think I was telling them that. And it's through various different types of situations. So, and then in prison, the mentality is, you a liar and I'm right. And so you lose. And it costs you $10 every time you, what y'all might say, buck the system or try to get some help. And so it's a little different, but that's one of my long-term goals. I'm gonna hope and pray that God bless me to have people in position to watch over these people in these situations, because I don't think nobody should be done like I've been done, and the people before me, and the people that's dead, that's gone before me. So I'm gonna try to get Mr. Coleman and Ms. Newman to help me, since my attorney is going across the country. So, but
that is the problem with these cases. I mean, we dig into these cases, and the need is so great for the work we do that we do get pulled away by our other cases. But also, how would we? It's difficult to imagine how we would unplug, do a review of all of the work. Now, in other cases, if we see something, for example, a person who testifies, an expert who testifies a certain way, which is fallacious, right, in the testimony, we are planning to look at the other cases in which that person testified. So that will be, that gets a little bit to what you're saying, but in a case where it's misidentification, and then when you open the file, you see these decisions, those are a little bit harder to address systemically.
Since the establishment of the clinic, how many exonerations, freeing of people have you been responsible for?
Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I want to hear what the answer is.
My answer is that Shawn is our guy, and here's we've had little involvement in other cases, but he's our first sort of real full solo exoneration, and it's like guilty with an explanation. We have been mainly and maybe you know this, I actually didn't read the whole fact sheet, so I don't know if it's in there, but we've been mainly an innocence project, student-led project with a small course added to it that Jim and I were teaching as a course. I was, for more years than I like to think of, I was Associate Dean for Academic Affairs here at the law school, and that was my full time, and all of the work I did, including the course that I taught and the supervision of the Innocence Project, was my pro bono work on top of everything else. Jim teaches every course in the law school, so the two of us together were just supervising the students, and we did a lot of initial reviews, and then they'd go to other places. 2 years ago, the university gave us funding to become a clinic. So just 2 years, this is the end of our second academic year, we've been a full clinic. And so my guilty with an explanation is, it took us a long time, but then I'm also saying, aren't we successful? And it's only our second year. So I'm no longer in the dean's office, I'm full-time clinical faculty. We have this fabulous new lawyer, John Edgerton, working with us right here. So we're now, we're cooking with gas, which is what I told one of my other people. I wrote him a letter. We are cooking with gas now, and he wrote back and he said, how about jet fuel? so we're cooking with gas, and a lot of people would like us to be cooking with jet fuel. So that's where we are now.
The other thing is that, these cases take forever to investigate. We have another case that we've been working on for 6 years in Winston-Salem that's in the courts now. When you reinvestigate the case, basically you've got to try to find evidence from cases that are 5-10 years old, and that's what we do, and we've been pretty successful at it, but it takes a lot of time.
And our oldest case is 20 years old. I think
that is not that we've had it, but...
No. We've had it for 20 years. It was a weeding. He was convicted almost 20 years ago.
How do you approach these cases when you don't have the cooperation of the police or the district attorney? How do you go about investigating? How do you do it?
Well, there are some things that we can do on our own. We can try to find new witnesses, but we keep at them. We don't give up. If you talk to some of the district attorneys around the state, they'll tell you that. We send them letters, we call them, we drop in, we send students over to try to shame them into talking to us. We never give up, and sometimes they'll come around, but I'm hoping that you folks in the media will get your editorial boards upset about this and pound on them a little bit. There's no reason that prosecutors and police departments shouldn't cooperate with wrongful conviction clinics and Innocence Project in North Carolina that are trying...
No legitimate reason.
Well, no legitimate reason, right. Who are trying to do this work, trying to identify mistakes.
The statute was just changed in January that now allows people filing motions for appropriate relief to have access, well, there's a question about when you can get access to those files, but the statute is a little bit ambiguous, but an interpretation, and the right one, is that if you're investigating toward filing some motion for post-conviction relief, which is the stage we're at in all of these cases, then you can have access to the state's files. Now, are we having 100% success with that? Not yet, but we're close. We've had a great success yesterday, so we're in charge of our celebrations. We're celebrating that.
Is this cross-racial identification?
Yes, that turned out to have been a problem too. And Kim might want to talk about this. One of the things that happened, kind of a extraordinary discovery that we made, we'd been working on this case, and we had figured out that the person who committed the crime had cornrows, had braids that went through his hair, through his head, and then back down to the back with braids that hung down. And so we referred to that as cornrows, and we wrote two of the students wrote a memo to the district attorney with, attachments and the whole thing, and we talked about cornrows and cornrows and cornrows. And we discovered, actually Kim discovered, talking to a lawyer, we won't identify the lawyer, but talking to a lawyer who was going to help us pro bono because we thought we might have to go into court in the case, discovered that the lawyer didn't know and the assistant district attorney didn't know what it meant to have cornrows. And so the photographs that Emily and Susan found in the DA's files, all show that his hair is exactly the way he wears it now. And Kim was talking with one of our lawyers, and he said he didn't understand the significance of the photographs because he said it doesn't show the back, and he could have cut off the braids. And so she called back. She was as blown away by that as I was when I heard it. And we realized that he didn't know what it meant to have cornrows. And we decided to go back to the assistant DA, and he didn't know what it meant to have cornrows either. And so when Kim and Susan found the victim in this case, one of the things that we wanted her to do was to confirm that the person had cornrows. And so she confirmed that, and then Kim sent her an email with photographs of African-American men with cornrows to ask if this is the hairstyle, and she sent back an email saying, yes, just like that, braids through his hair. So when we went back to the district attorney and to the assistant district attorney and explained to them that the person had cornrows and that you couldn't have cornrows without really long hair, the light bulb went off, and that was sort of the point at which everything fell into place, and Shawn was released. But this was just people didn't know what cornrows were.
But I have to say, this was just a great learning experience because we had to teach people about cornrows, right? So we had to teach people how long your hair had to be, and Jim Coleman from the very beginning, being African American, said, "I know how long hair has to be cornrows, and
So
look at my hair." And
so we got a photograph to show the same guy with his hair in cornrows and his hair out to show them that your hair had to be really long to braid it in cornrows.
But they also they went to a barber college, they interviewed barber colleges, they went and got affidavits from barbers about barbers of African-American hair, how long the hair would have to be in order to be cornrows. They did all these photos, they did the spreadsheets, all of the students. It just ran through teams. It was a terrific, it took a lot of convincing or teaching to teach them about cornrows. Which is something, if you know what cornrows are, it doesn't even enter your consciousness that the person you're talking to doesn't know what they are. So we're saying cornrows, and they're thinking braids. They're thinking braids at the back of the hair.
Sean, can we assume you're never going to grow your hair out and get cornrows?
It won't grow. It won't grow like that. It'll get nappy, but it won't grow like that. Yeah, I'm sure that.
This is his style. This has been his style since he was a young man.
And the victim had testified at trial that Shawn looked taller and looked thinner than the person who attacked her. And so we were also able to show with the same chart through records from the Mecklenburg County Jail that Shawn's height had been consistent over a span of 7 years. And also that his weight had been consistent, but that if anything, he had gained weight at the time of trial, which was a year after the attack. So put together, he looks taller, he looks thinner, and he didn't have braids. That it was just that he was taller, or he wasn't taller, he wasn't thinner, he's never had braids, it just wasn't him.
She said she ID'd me by my voice. And what was crazy, throughout my time of being incarcerated, you know, you talk to people, you talk to different criminals and crooks, and they were like, yo, man, I did my crime, da-da-da-da, and this is what I did, and this is how I did it. And I noticed that by asking them questions about an armed robbery, which was put on me by Charlotte Mecklenburg County, that your voice changed when you rob somebody. Because that's what actually rob you, is the command in the voice. Okay, that's just like when they come and kick your door in, that's what we call, when they come and tell you sit down and stuff like that, they use like a scare tactic. Like they might come to you and say, and then they, get on the ground, move! And that's what actually rob you. It's not the weapon, it's actually the voice and the command. So when the lady said that she ID'd me by my voice, and I never even talked to her or interfaced with her, and I'm sitting way on this side, going to catch all this time for no reason, and she's sitting on the stand, I'm like, well, how does she hear my voice? I don't talk loud, and if I were to be a robber, I wouldn't be talking in the same, hey, would you please get over here? No, could you please go step in that freezer? You'll be a little more aggressive. You'll be more psyched and pumped. So, you know, but that come from years and years and years of talking to people that actually did a robbery. They also brought this to my attention too, that when they go to jail for the robbery, that the people that investigate, the detectives that investigate the armed robbery, they actually come and talk to them. They never did me like that. That's when I knew something was wrong, because they was gonna put a crime on me. I knew it then, but I just didn't want to believe it in my mind and in my heart. And then they put it on me and sent me to prison, and now we're right here.
You know, that's an important point. I mean, what happened in this case was that you know, they interviewed a friend of Shawn's the day after this crime had occurred, because somebody said that they had seen a man come from, you know, the patio on her at her apartment, and they asked her. They said they were looking for a person with braids, and she said that there's nobody like that who lives here. My husband lives here, and the only other person who could have been in my apartment is Shawn Massey. Well, once they got the name, that became that's the only suspect they ever had. They never talked to another person, as far as we know, about whether Shawn had braids. They never interviewed a single other person to determine whether he had braids, anybody who knew him. And that was pretty extraordinary. And they never attempted to interview him about the crime. They simply decided that Shawn Massey did it, and that was it. And then the victim never saw him until a year after the crime, a year and a half almost, when she saw him at the trial. That was the very first time.
And one other thing we're doing here at Duke, we're trying to do, is because the word decision or decide has been said about 15 times, and you asked the great question about, well, what about the bad decision that was making? We've met once in February. We had a series of meetings with people from around the campus, and then had a big session in February with neuroscientists, social biologists, economists or behavioral economists, and operations management people now have not been added, to think of ways to improve, to take what they're learning about decision-making and systems and how to improve decisions throughout a system and apply it to the criminal justice system. I keep saying we need a checklist, right? If they had to check why they settled on Shawn, and next to the checklist it said, did the victim ever express doubt about the identity? if you had check yes, how many forms? We fill these forms out all the time, right? Yes, explain your answer. If they had to explain their answer and somebody had to review it, Shawn may not have been convicted. And at every step, if there had been some accountability for those, what seem to be small decisions, but they are the decisions that drive these wrongful convictions. So he's the director, I'm the associate director of the Center for Criminal Justice and Professional Responsibility here, and that's what we're trying in our spare time to revolutionize decision-making in the criminal justice system. But I do think that those decisions are what we need to figure out.
Me too.
So it's the three of us do.
That's it?
Anything else?
Questions by email? Were there questions by email?
I don't think so.
I got a lot to say, honestly. I could tell y'all some prison stories that'll blow y'all mind, but maybe later.
Another
But
day.
yeah.
That's where the sharp elbow goes into the ribs.
But I do, like I say, I'm planning on having some watchdog. If the Lord bless me, I want watchdog groups over those entities, because man, it costs $10 for a write-up. That's a lot of grocery in prison. You know, for one infraction, it costs $10, and my support system is right there. My mom, she don't work. My aunt, she barely, she about to retire, but don't want to retire because she don't work so much in her life. And those, like me, I like loyalty, because with loyalty, that puts love in action. So that's all I got, you know. So it is what it is, and I love them for just being loyal to me and believing in me. My mom was at my trial, and
He calls his grandmother his mother, so that you understand.
that's right.
A little confusing.
And she know me. I don't. Both of them do. I don't sugarcoat nothing. I've always been a carefree person. I'm compassionate. I love people. Used to, and to a degree. But it's a lot done changed in me over those years, and man, I'm mad. I'm upset. I go through little phases. Sometimes I still think about my partners that I left that we used to make. We eat together and turn around and talk junk to each other 30 minutes later. But I don't know. It's just like I say. It's mind blowing to be free and to be done being in prison for something you actually didn't do. See, to me, I freed my family's name. I'm happy for that. And I miss the dudes in prison because, like I say, I've been around them so long to where you start making people, like you might find somebody that remind you of a cousin that y'all used to kick with, or you might find a dude that remind you of a father figure. So you put your own family together. But me, I did that to a degree, but I stayed more in the hole than I did on the yard. So because I knew where my support system lied. But what really got me is while I was incarcerated, I lost my granddaddy, which is my dad. I call my mom, my grandma, you know, and that was something. Now that's what fueled me to keep on writing. I'm writing on a regular. I don't even like to write now because I write so much, and I don't have to do it now as much, so they don't have to worry. And I don't know. Like I said, I'm gonna take it one day at a time. I'm gonna let the Lord lead me. So, and I'm gonna bring everybody I can to church.
All of
Y'all invited.
Would you like to hear an apology from?
Oh, that's good. That's a good question because I asked Mr. Coleman. I hopefully my aunt suggested that I put it in a book. But I want to talk to Theresa Sauter. I want to ask her why she told that lie on me. I want to ask Ms. Woods major questions because Esposito and Jacobs, the two detectives, really, in my heart, I have compassion, but in my mind, I want somebody to go to jail. But I don't think that'll work. But I want somebody reprimanded because I was actually wrong. So I want somebody reprimanded. You know, even if it ain't number Ken Tredd or Mr. Brown, which was a judge. You know, but
What about an apology?
but see, they got to put that in writing. They got to have a state seal on it. They got oh, it's on. It's on. But I have to think things through, so, because I might accept the apology, then again I might not, because I'm that type of person. So it depends. Like what the day I'm in a good mood, I might say, okay, well that's cool, give me a hug. But tomorrow I might be like, nah, bro, I ain't trying to hear that. Go ahead on. You know, so it depends on what type of mind frame and what mood I'm in. So, as far as the apology, but I do want one, and I want this what's it called, exonerated, committed my sentence. How they word that?
Pardon.
Yeah, I want a pardon, a full pardon, so I can see. This is gonna be part of my testimony throughout life. I'm gonna share this with young people, old people, and I'm gonna let them know that prison ain't all what it's cracked up to be. And from my experience, like I say, I feel that they tried to kill me, so I'm gonna tell them that too. But one thing about it, I hope a person don't ever ask me a question that they feel that I'm not passive, so I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm gonna be direct. If it hurt their feelings, it is what it is. If it don't, then we'll grow from it. But don't ask me something if y'all don't want a real answer from it, or I might have to consult with him.
Yeah.
And say no comment.
We have some work to do on some of these issues.
Right.
This is the first time you've been in prison in trouble with the law and stuff like that?
On this level, yes, because I went to trial, but I did catch a drug charge a long time ago. But I did that crime, and I paid my debts to society. I did it. I actually did that crime, but no, it's my second time. But I didn't do this one, so it don't really count. So,
yeah.
Have you received apologies from anybody, from a correctional officer on up? I mean, has anybody apologized?
Private citizens, they apologize for people, like just a person might walk up to me. So I'm very approachable in the street because I like to walk, I like to mingle with people, and people come up to me and they're like, I seen you on the news, man, and I'm like, man, we apologize for Charlotte putting this crime on you, because they might be charlatans, or some of them not even charlatans. They're like, man, that was really wrong how they did you, man, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, cool. But no, as far as like on a government level or political level or somebody of importance, no. They haven't even taken me to dinner yet. But Kim tried a couple times.
They came tonight.
But it's something, man, that but like I say, I think it's more to it than that, because it's people that's actually done died before me, that they done found out 30 years later with this DNA that they actually didn't even do their crime. And how can you reward or pay somebody and you done took their life without properly prosecuting them and stuff? You know what I'm saying? Without everything that they need to do to put you in prison. So that's it, basically.
Okay,
Thank
that's
you.
it.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Peace.